My name is Mark Lewis. I'm 46 years old, a father of two, and I live in Phoenix, Arizona. And I'll never forget the morning I stood in my driveway staring at nothing but a pile of lumber and an empty lot where my dream kitchen was supposed to be. 6 weeks earlier, I had handed over a $60,000 deposit check to a contractor who promised me the world. He shook my hand, looked me in the eye, and said, "Don't worry, Mark. I'll treat this project like it's my own home." I believed him. My wife believed him. We had saved for years to make this renovation happen, tightening belts, skipping vacations, putting every extra dollar into the someday fund. That check wasn't just money. It was years of sacrifice. But now the job site was deserted. No crews, no progress, not even a scrap of effort. Just silence. My calls went unanswered. My texts got the occasional one-word excuse, busy, delayed, next week, before he stopped responding altogether. It was as if the man had evaporated into the Arizona desert with $60,000 of my hard-earned savings stuffed in his back pocket. I can still hear my wife's voice that morning, shaky with anger. "Mark, what are we going to do? What if he's gone for good?" And the truth, I didn't have an answer. My chest felt hollow. All I could think about was the hours I had worked, the dreams we had built around that renovation, the look on my kids' faces when we told them they'd each get their own rooms after the remodel. Gone. Stolen. I wanted to scream. I wanted to drive to his office and slam my fist on his desk. But there was no office, just a rented mailbox and a disconnected line. So I stood there in the dust, clutching a useless contract and wondering if I'd just ruined my family's future. That's when the anger shifted into something else. Focus. He thought he could vanish with my money. He thought I'd be too embarrassed, too powerless to fight back. But he forgot one thing. His license was public record. And I had something he didn't. I had the group chat. The one every neighborhood has. The one where parents warn each other about suspicious vans. Where people post about lost dogs and lawn services. Where a single screenshot can spread like wildfire across an entire community. As I stood there, the Arizona sun beating down on that empty job site, I made a decision. I wasn't going to chase him. I wasn't going to beg. I was going to let the truth do the chasing for me. And when I finally posted his name, his license, and the proof of what he had done, it wouldn't just be my voice he'd have to answer to. It would be hundreds. Before everything went sideways, the dream seemed simple enough. Build a home that actually felt like ours. For years, my wife and I had talked about remodeling the kitchen. It wasn't just a cosmetic update. We wanted a place that could hold our family. A kitchen with space for Sunday breakfasts, for Thanksgiving. Dinners for late-night homework sessions at the counter. We'd sit at the table after the kids went to bed sketching plans on scrap paper. The oven should go here. Let's put a window above the sink. It was our version of dreaming big. Money was always the barrier. Between the mortgage, the kids' school costs, and the usual grind of bills, extra cash didn't come easy. So we made sacrifices. No new cars, no expensive vacations, fewer dinners out. Every dollar we could spare went into the renovation fund. Slowly, painfully, it grew. When the balance finally crossed $60,000, it felt like we were holding a golden ticket. Finding the right contractor felt like the last piece of the puzzle. We met with several, most of them either too expensive or too dismissive, treating us like small potatoes. Then came him. I won't use his real name, but let's call him Derek. He was polished, confident, and seemed to know exactly how to speak to people like us. homeowners hungry for change, but nervous about the cost. He spread out glossy photos of past projects across our dining table, pointing out every detail. See this backsplash? We did that in under 3 weeks. Here's a before and after of a kitchen just like yours. Imagine the value this will add to your home. He made it sound so easy, so safe. Looking back, maybe it was the way he shook my hand, firm, steady, eyes locked with mine, that sold me. Or the way he said, "I treat every home like it's my own." It was the exact phrase I wanted to hear. We signed the contract that night. Derek promised the entire remodel would take 8 weeks, start to finish. He said his crew would be on site by Monday morning. All I need to get rolling, he added, is the deposit. $60,000. Years of our savings, written on a single check. I handed it over with a shaky but hopeful smile, feeling like I was finally giving my family the life we had dreamed of. My wife hugged me afterward. The kids clapped when we told them. New rooms? Really? Their voices bubbled with excitement. The first week gave us hope. Derek's crew showed up, measured walls, dropped off materials. The house buzzed with possibility. We ordered takeout every night and laughed about how the mess would be worth it in the end. But then, the rhythm faltered. One morning, no one showed. Derek texted, "Supplies delayed. Be there tomorrow." Tomorrow came, and still nothing. 2 days later, a truck pulled up. Workers unloaded a few beams, then left within an hour. I brushed it off. Delays happen. Construction isn't always smooth. But then the excuses stacked up. Waiting on permits. Crew got reassigned. Suppliers backed up. Always just plausible enough to make me nod, but hollow enough to make my stomach twist. My wife started noticing too. "Mark, does this guy actually know what he's doing? Why isn't there progress?" I told her to trust the process, though I wasn't sure if I believed my own words. Meanwhile, Derek's invoices became vague. He'd send a one-liner. Materials purchased, $5,000, but never attach receipts. I asked for copies, and he'd respond with, "I'll get them to you," but they never came. The breaking point came one Friday evening. We came home from work to find the site deserted. No tools, no crew, not even the leftover materials. It was like someone had hit pause on our dream mid-sentence. I called Derek. No answer. I texted. Nothing. Hours later, he replied, "Busy." Next week never came. That weekend, my wife stood in the half-demolished kitchen, tears streaming down her face. We gave him everything, Mark. $60,000, and look at this place. It's worse than before I wrapped my arms around her, but my own chest was burning. She was right. The walls we dreamed of tearing down were still standing. The counters we'd imagined sharing meals on were gone. We had sacrificed for years, and all we had to show for it was a pile of debt and a gutted room. And still, I held on to hope. Maybe he was overbooked. Maybe his crew quit. Maybe there was some explanation that would make sense if I just gave it time. But time passed, and the silence grew heavier. Each unanswered call chipped away at my faith. Each day of no progress twisted the knife deeper. Then came the moment I'll never forget. I sat at my desk late one night, scrolling through emails, trying to find anything, any proof he was still working behind the scenes. Nothing. But then I searched his name online. One link led to another, and within minutes I found his contractor's license, plain as day, listed on the state's public registry. That's when the anger hardened into something else. For weeks I'd felt powerless, trapped. But staring at that license number, I realized he hadn't disappeared into thin air. He wasn't untouchable. He had a name, a paper trail, and a reputation he depended on. And I had something just as powerful as his license, the group chat. The days after I found Derek's license online were the longest of my life. Every morning, I'd walk into that half-destroyed kitchen and feel the sting all over again. Exposed wiring hung like veins, drywall dust coated the counters, and the kids had started calling it the ghost room. My wife tried to stay strong, but I'd catch her wiping away tears when she thought no one was looking. I kept calling, voicemails, texts, even emails. Sometimes he'd reply, always with vague excuses. Busy, waiting on materials, crew tied up on another site. Each message bought him more time, and each one made my blood boil hotter. At first, I told myself to stay patient. Maybe he was just stretched thin. Maybe the pandemic had slowed things down. Maybe. But the silence between his excuses grew wider. And in that silence, suspicion crept in. One night, I sat on the couch, scrolling through my phone long after the house had gone quiet. I typed his name into a local community forum just to see if anything came up. My heart stopped when I saw the first thread. Did anyone else get scammed by Derek Vrij? The replies poured in. Homeowners complaining about deposits taken, jobs abandoned, promises unkept, stories just like mine, some worse. One family lost $75,000. Another said he left their house unlivable, foundation torn up. Dozens of replies, all with the same refrain. He vanishes once he gets the money. I leaned back, phone trembling in my hand. My suspicion had been right all along. This wasn't bad luck. This wasn't bad timing. This was a pattern, and I was his latest victim. I didn't tell my wife right away. I couldn't, not until I knew for sure. But I started watching. Every little thing Derek had done suddenly looked different under the light of suspicion. His polished portfolio could have been stolen photos. His contract, thin, full of vague promises, but no hard deadlines. Even the way he avoided giving receipts, it all added up now. I remembered the night he first came to our house, the way he poured himself a glass of water from our sink, like he already owned the place. Back then, it looked like confidence. Now, it looked like arrogance. The unraveling didn't just happen with him, it happened in me too. I stopped giving him the benefit of the doubt. I stopped answering his half-baked excuses with politeness. Instead, I went quiet. I started documenting everything. Screenshots of texts, bank statements, photos of the empty site. I built a folder on my laptop, labeling it Derek. Each file was another nail in the coffin of his lies. Meanwhile, the tension at home kept building. My wife wanted answers. Mark, what if he's never coming back? What if the money's gone? Her voice cracked when she said it. $60,000 was more than a deposit. It was our future, our trust, our sacrifice. I didn't have answers, but I had a growing resolve. The breaking point came at 2:14 a.m. one night. I was lying awake, staring at the ceiling, when my phone buzzed. A message from Derek, just 2 words. Next week. I stared at it for a long time, my jaw clenched so tight it hurt. That's when the truth hit me like a sledgehammer. He wasn't coming back. He wasn't planning to finish the job. He was stringing me along just enough to keep me quiet. Something snapped in me right then. I wasn't waiting anymore. I wasn't hoping. I wasn't begging. I was watching. The unraveling wasn't just about losing faith in Derek. It was about realizing the system he thrived in. Contractors like him depended on silence, on shame. Most people got scammed, cursed under their breath, and moved on, too embarrassed to speak up. That's how he kept doing it, over and over. But I wasn't going to be silent. Not anymore. I thought about the community forum, all those other families burned by him. I thought about the public license listing sitting in my bookmarks. And I thought about the one weapon he couldn't see coming, the neighborhood group chat. Our group wasn't small. It had hundreds of members, homeowners, parents, retirees. Word in there spread faster than wildfire. One post about a suspicious car could light up the chat for days, and I knew if I dropped Derek's name in there, with proof, it wouldn't just be my voice calling him out. It would be an entire neighborhood. That night, lying awake, I started drafting the message in my head. Calm, factual, screenshots attached, his license number front and center, no anger, no insults, just the truth, sharp and undeniable. Because Derek had made one fatal mistake. He thought I was just another victim who would take the hit and keep quiet. He didn't realize I was about to turn silence into a weapon. He thought I was waiting for him to call back, but I wasn't waiting anymore. I was building the case that would end him the moment came on a scorching Tuesday afternoon. I'd left work early and drove past the house, hoping, against all reason, to see some progress. Maybe a truck out front, maybe a crew finally showing up. Anything. Instead, I pulled into the driveway and saw nothing but silence. The lumber pile sat exactly where it had been weeks ago, warped now from the relentless Arizona sun. The site looked more like an abandoned junkyard than the start of a dream renovation. I walked through the half-gutted kitchen, dust crunching under my boots, the smell of plaster still hanging in the air. I ran my hand over the exposed studs, trying to picture the future we had planned. New cabinets, granite countertops, a dining nook where my kids would sit and eat breakfast. But all I could see was emptiness. That was when it hit me. He wasn't coming back. I pulled out my phone and called Derek again, just to prove myself wrong. Straight to voicemail. I texted, "We need to talk. Where's the crew? Where's our money?" No reply. An hour passed, 2 hours, nothing. I stood there staring at the dust, my fists clenched so tight my nails cut into my palms. That $60,000 wasn't just money, it was my family's future, and he had stolen it like it was nothing. My wife came home not long after, groceries in hand. She stepped into the kitchen, her eyes scanning the bare walls, and I watched her face fall all over again. She set the bags down and whispered, "Mark, he's gone." "Isn't he?" I didn't answer. I didn't need to. Because in that moment, something inside me shifted. The fear, the shame, the doubt, they all burned away, leaving only a sharp, steady clarity. I wasn't the helpless victim he thought I was. I pulled out my laptop that night, opened the folder I'd built with screenshots and bank statements, and stared at Derek's license information one more time. My hands shook, not from weakness, but from focus. For weeks, I had let him control the narrative. I had waited on his excuses, clung to hope, tried to be patient. No more. That night was my snap. Not a breakdown, not a meltdown. A decision. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I planned. I drafted the message for the group chat in my notes app, line by line. Calm, factual, impossible to refute. "Homeowners beware. Contractor Derek, last name, accepted a $60,000 deposit from me and abandoned the job. License number attached. Screenshots included. Please share." Reading it back, my pulse slowed. It was surgical, clean, the kind of message that couldn't be brushed off as anger or exaggeration. It was proof. I sat there in the dim glow of the laptop, imagining how fast it would spread. One neighbor would forward it to another. Someone would post it to the wider community forum, and within hours, Derek's name would be everywhere he didn't want it to be. For the first time since he cashed my check, I felt powerful again. Because Derek had made the mistake of thinking I'd stay silent. He thought shame would keep me from speaking up. But he underestimated me. He underestimated the power of truth in a community that doesn't tolerate liars. I closed the laptop, leaned back in my chair, and whispered to myself, "It's game on." The snap wasn't about losing 60 grand. The snap was realizing I had something worth more than money. I had his name, I had his license, and I had a group chat full of people who deserved to know the truth. I didn't sleep that night. I wasn't waiting anymore. I was ready to pull the trigger, and once I did, there'd be no going back. The morning after that snap, I woke up with a sense of focus I hadn't felt in weeks. No more waiting. No more hoping Derek would come back. The only way forward was to fight, but not the way he expected. I wasn't going to chase him down or scream on his voicemail. I was going to cut off the very thing he needed most, his reputation. I started by gathering everything, every text message, every half-hearted excuse, every unanswered call log. I scrolled back through our conversations, screenshotting each lie. Supplies delayed. Crew tied up. Next week. Dozens of them, all empty promises. I added copies of the contract, the deposit receipt from my bank, even photos of the half-gutted kitchen. I wanted a paper trail so clear a stranger could follow it without asking questions. Then I organized it into a single folder on my desktop labeled Evidence. Each file was numbered. Text logs, bank transfer, photos, license lookup. It looked less like a homeowner's notes and more like a legal case. And that's exactly what I wanted. Once the evidence was airtight, I turned my attention to the weapon I had chosen, the neighborhood group chat. Every city has one. Ours was massive. Parents warning about suspicious vans, neighbors swapping contractor tips, homeowners posting lost dogs and yard sales. It was part gossip mill, part watchdog, and part lifeline. Word traveled faster in there than anywhere else. If I dropped Derek's name, people would see it within minutes. By the end of the day, it would ripple across the entire community. But timing mattered. If I fired too early, it might look like an angry rant. If I came off too emotional, people might doubt me. I had to be calm, factual, almost clinical. No yelling, no insults, just proof. So I drafted the message carefully, line by line. Neighbors, I need to warn you about a contractor named Derek, last name. 6 weeks ago, I gave him a $60,000 deposit for a remodel. Since then, he has abandoned the project, stopped responding, and left my kitchen half demolished. His license number is number, screenshots and documents attached. Please share this so no one else gets scammed. I read it back a dozen times. It was sharp, clear, and impossible to twist. But before I hit send, I wanted more leverage. That night, I dug deeper online. I found other victims in local homeowner forums, each with their own story of Derek taking money and vanishing. I reached out privately to a few of them. "Hi, I'm Mark from Phoenix. Did Derek do the same to you?" The replies came fast and furious. Yes, yes, yes. Some had lost tens of thousands more than I had. Some had already filed complaints with the licensing board but hadn't heard back. We swapped screenshots, shared contracts, traded horror stories. By midnight, I had more evidence than I could have hoped for. Proof that Derek's pattern wasn't just one mistake. It was deliberate. That changed everything. Because now, when I dropped his name in the group chat, I wouldn't be standing alone. I'd have a chorus of voices backing me, echoing my story, piling on with their own. And once that momentum started rolling, it wouldn't stop. I also made a quiet call to the state licensing board. I explained what happened, gave them Derek's license number, and filed an official complaint. The agent on the phone sounded tired, but interested. "You're not the first," she admitted. "The more complaints we get, the faster we can act." That was exactly what I wanted. By the end of the week, my strategy was set. Evidence folder organized and ready. Drafted message, calm and factual. Other victims prepped to chime in. Complaint filed with licensing board. I wasn't angry anymore. I was methodical. Meanwhile, Derek still hadn't contacted me. Not a single word. That silence, once maddening, now worked in my favor. He didn't know I was preparing. He didn't know I was about to burn down the fragile reputation he depended on to find new victims. I went about my days quietly, took the kids to school, went to work, ate dinner with my wife. But beneath the surface, I was sharpening the knife. My wife noticed the change in me. Less frantic, less desperate. "Mark," she asked one night, "what are you planning?" I looked her in the eye and said, "Justice, not in a courtroom. In the one place he can't run from, our community." The next Friday, I knew it was time. The group chat was buzzing that morning about a suspicious landscaper going door to door. Dozens of people were online, engaged, reading. The timing was perfect. I opened the app, pulled up my drafted message, attached the screenshots and license information, and hovered over the send button. My hands didn't shake this time, because Derek had underestimated me. He thought silence was weakness. But silence, paired with patience, had turned into the sharpest revenge I could have planned. And once I hit that button, his life was about to unravel as completely as mine had 6 weeks earlier. He thought I was powerless, but when the truth hit the group chat, he'd learn what real power looked like. The morning I finally pulled the trigger, the Arizona sun was barely up, but the group chat was alive with chatter. Parents posting about school traffic, someone warning about coyotes near the park, a neighbor asking for recommendations for a roofer. Hundreds of eyes scrolling, reading, sharing. Perfect timing. I opened the app, pasted my drafted message, attached the screenshots, license number, and contract photos, and pressed send. For a second, nothing happened. My phone screen just sat there, my post floating between a lost dog alert and a yard sale ad. My stomach twisted. What if people ignored it? What if they thought I was just venting? Then the replies started. First, a single shocked message. "Wait, Derek, last name? He took $20,000 from us last year." Then another. "He abandoned our bathroom remodel too. Never finished, never refunded." Then it snowballed. Within minutes, the chat exploded with homeowners piling in, each one with their own story. Some had been scammed for smaller amounts, others for sums that made my stomach drop. $10,000, $40,000. One family said he left them with a half-dug pool that cost twice as much to fix. Dozens of angry emojis filled the thread. Screenshots poured in, other contracts, other text messages, all echoing the same pattern. Derek takes the money, does just enough work to look legitimate, then disappears. It was like lighting a fuse. By noon, the group chat had turned into a digital courtroom. Derek on trial, the evidence overwhelming. Neighbors tagged friends, shared the post to other community chats, copied it into local homeowner forums. His name spread like wildfire across the city. And the best part? The other victims didn't just add their stories, they backed me up with receipts, photos, and proof of their own. My message wasn't just one angry homeowner anymore. It was dozens of us, unified, undeniable. My phone buzzed nonstop. Private messages rolled in. "Thank you for posting this. We thought we were alone. We've been waiting for someone to speak up." It felt like an army was rising out of nowhere, each of us connected by the same betrayal. Meanwhile, the silence from Derek was deafening. At first, I thought he'd call me, try to bluff his way through, but he didn't. Instead, I heard through another neighbor that he had deleted his business Facebook page. His phone line went straight to voicemail. By the second day, his website had gone offline. He was running, but it was too late. The complaints began flooding into the state licensing board. Homeowners who had once stayed quiet now had the courage to file, armed with proof and solidarity. I followed up with the agent I'd spoken to before. She sounded overwhelmed but almost relieved. "We've had over 30 complaints in the past 48 hours, she said. "This is more evidence than we've ever had on one contractor." Within a week, the board suspended his license pending investigation. The man who once strutted into my house with glossy photos and smooth promises was officially barred from taking on new jobs. And the community didn't stop there. Word reached the local news. A consumer protection reporter called me after someone forwarded my post. "Would you be willing to go on record?" she asked. I hesitated, but then I thought about the $60,000 he stole from me, and from all of us. "Yes," I said. The story aired that Friday evening. Local contractor accused of scamming dozens of families. They showed interviews with me and 2 other victims. They panned across abandoned job sites, unfinished projects, and angry homeowners demanding justice. Derek's face flashed across the screen, his business name in bold letters, his license number displayed for the world to see. By the next morning, his reputation was ashes. Neighbors texted me screenshots of his name trending on community pages. The comment sections were brutal. People who had considered hiring him wrote things like, "Dodged a bullet," and "never again." His carefully constructed facade had crumbled overnight, not because I yelled, not because I chased him, but because I quietly told the truth and let the community do the rest. The fallout hit fast. Without a license, he couldn't legally work. Without a reputation, no one would hire him under the table. And with so many victims stepping forward, lawsuits began circling. As for me, I didn't see a dime of my $60,000 right away. Justice doesn't always pay back in cash, but the satisfaction of watching his empire collapse, that was priceless. The final nail came when someone in the chat posted a photo of Derek's office, empty, the sign ripped down, the windows dark. He hadn't just ghosted us. Now he was ghosting the entire city. But the difference was, this time he couldn't hide. His name was burned into the community's memory, a warning for anyone who ever thought of trusting him again. And all it took was one post. That night, as I sat in my quiet living room, phone buzzing with messages of gratitude from strangers, I thought about how powerless I had felt just weeks earlier. How hopeless it seemed standing in that empty kitchen. Derek had counted on that silence. He had counted on me giving up. Instead, I turned silence into a weapon. The group chat had done what courts, lawyers, and threats often can't. It delivered immediate, undeniable justice. And for the first time since writing that $60,000 check, I finally felt whole again. The courtroom never came. The neighbors were enough. One post, one license number, and his empire fell apart in days. It's been months since the group chat lit up and Derek's name spread like wildfire. Looking back now, I realize the money he stole from me was painful, yes, but what hurt more was the sense of helplessness he left behind. Standing in that gutted kitchen, watching my wife's face fall as she realized our dream had been ripped away, that memory cut deeper than the missing $60,000 ever could. But today, that kitchen looks different. The walls are finished. The cabinets gleam. There's a big window over the sink where the morning sun pours in, while my kids eat breakfast at the counter. It didn't happen overnight. It took hiring a new contractor, one who came highly recommended by neighbors who had watched the whole story unfold. It took more money, more patience, more late nights balancing the numbers. But we got it done. And every time I walk into that room, I feel something stronger than pride. I feel justice. Because Derek didn't just steal from me, he stole from dozens of families. And when I hit send on that message, I gave every single one of us a voice. Together, we tore down the mask he hid behind. He thought he could ghost us, but we became the ghosts that haunted him. I never heard from him again. Not a call, not a text, not an apology. But I don't need one. His silence is enough. His empty office is enough. His suspended license is enough. And here's the lesson I carry now. Silence isn't weakness. Patience isn't surrender. Sometimes the quietest moves, the screenshots, the receipts, the single post in a group chat, become the loudest forms of revenge. My wife told me once after everything settled, "Mark, you didn't just stand up for us. You stood up for everyone." And she was right. Dozens of neighbors reached out to thank me. Some even said my post saved them from handing over money they would have never seen again. That feels better than any refund check ever could. Derek thought he was clever. Thought he could pocket 60 grand and disappear. But what he didn't understand is that reputation is fragile. And once it shatters, there's no putting it back together. I see the lesson every time I log into that group chat. My post is still pinned at the top, still shared with newcomers, still whispered like a warning. Don't mess with this community. We watch out for each other. And I see it every time I stand in my finished kitchen. Because to me, that space isn't just a remodel. It's proof that we survived, we rebuilt, and we came out stronger than before. He took my money. He left my home in ruins. But he also gave me something I didn't realize I had, a voice. And once I used it, he never stood a chance. If you've ever been scammed, lied to, or underestimated, remember this. Silence and patience aren't weakness. They're weapons. You don't always need to scream for revenge. Sometimes all it takes is the truth in the right place at the right time. If this story hit home, share it with someone who needs that reminder. And make sure to subscribe for more real stories just like this.